Ah, hello there. Welcome back to the Stygian Study, ye seekers of profane knowledge. I am your host, as always.
Yes, so much.
And I'm glad that you are here tonight, for I have stumbled upon a discovery that I wish to enlighten you with. The possible true nature of a mysterious lunar god, Rher. Now, in the universe of Fear and Hunger, there are many gods that exist. Some that are forward with their presence, some that are forgotten, and some that are outright dead. But there is only one that is elusive as Rher, the god of the moon. Known as the trickster god, Rher is one of the gods who is said by some to still observe humanity, and is the most likely to interfere with human affairs, and has done so an innumerable amount of times already, through his various servants and machinations. He refuses to share the power of the gods with humanity, and will deploy all sorts of underhanded tactics to disrupt humanity and their ambitions. But unlike his other gods who have clear dominions over that which they govern, such as Grogroth in destruction, Sylvian in creation, Venushka in nature, Rher is mysterious, even for the likes of the new gods in Mahab. So join me now on this brilliant moonlit night as we try to uncover and define the secrets of the great, unknowable god, Rher. Rher, like many of the older gods, has had much of his history recorded, but it is difficult to tell what is truth and what is the ramblings of madmen, according to Enki in his Skin Bible written about Rher in Fear and Hunger 2. But the Skin Bible does reveal a basic amount of knowledge that will form the very base of ideas, and it reads as such. Very much like the sun, the moon is one of the primordial entities, and thus has its lore and beliefs written since the dawn of time. This makes it difficult to separate facts from fiction and mad ramblings from hidden truths. Consistent details among the myriad of stories seem to hint of a god called Rher, also known as the trickster god and the moon god. In the most ancient writings, Rher is depicted as the god of the insane and those who succumb to madness. His blessings to men in his moonlight, which is said to uncover the hidden truths under the human filth, a truth that is often too much for a human mind to handle. It can be debated whether his version of the truth is more accurate than that of the human filth. Unlike many of the other older gods, Rher's part in the greater scheme of things remains a mystery. Just looking at the night sky, you can see his presence in an eternal slumber. This makes his secrecy even more infuriating. He's literally hiding in plain sight. The god of the mad, you say? A madness that is brought on by revealing the truth as revealed underneath his moonlight? Now, madness via information is not an alien concept in the world of Fear and Hunger. Madness is one of the key mechanics of the game, and those who are able to wield the great powers of the gods must expend their sanity in order to cause the manifestations of those powers. And in the event one loses their mind totally in this game, you will develop a fear of any and everything. It is also not alien that an older god would cause the madness of men by revealing the truth behind the curtains of reality. In fact, in Ending B of Fear and Hunger 1, the player suffers this exact fate, wherein Grogroth shows the player the true shape of the universe through the eyes of the old gods, and it instantly causes their mind to crumble, resulting in the body forcefully shutting down its functions in a desperate attempt to escape what it is seen. Additionally, Grogroth causes madness to the players if they read his profane book, the Necronomicon, which tempts any who hold it to open its skin-bound pages, and those who are not strong-willed enough will suffer the same fate as the player in Ending B. So, it's not a unique thing that followers of the gods will go mad, but to be attributed as the god of madness is certainly an achievement. I mean, it certainly makes sense. If you try and speak to Rher during his fight with him, you actually end up losing your mind, and he will attempt to melt your brain. So, what else do we know for certain? We know there is another book that speaks on the nature of Rher, called The Truth Under the Moonlight. It reads as follows. Who of us doesn't cover their true face and hide behind a persona? In the broad daylight, we adopt a social role depending on the surrounding people. We put on a mask that works as a public image of our true personality. Do we hide our face to avoid the judgment of the people? Or do we look down in shame as the sun watches our every move? A sun that knows our deepest longings and lustful thoughts. Only in the darkness of night does the true and vile nature of men get revealed. We share our decrepit bodies only to a select few under the moonlight. Despite what lowly thieves covering the shadows would like you to think, the moonlight hides no one. Interesting. This is the second time the idea of the truth being revealed to humans and the unseen being uncovered beneath the moonlight is brought up in regards to Rher. Perhaps there is a greater mystery here than what is initially may be seen that defies Rher's apparent nature. During conversation with the new gods in the Hall of the Gods in Mahab, we learn Rher has attempted to and will continue to meddle in the affairs of humanity, attempting to sabotage us from ever reaching power similar to the old gods, and diminishing our influence by any means necessary. The chief method he utilizes to accomplish this is through the Festival of Termina, and through his ever-mercurial servants. The Festival of Termina is a battle royale event wherein multiple contestants will fight each other to the death over the course of 3 days. And the last contestant standing wins a grand prize of an audience with Rher himself. And any of those who are left standing at the end of day 3 are inflicted with a blight known as the Moonlight Cancer. It is an event that he himself oversees, but he did not create. It actually was a collective effort of the old gods to create the festival. However, the purpose of the festival is entirely unknown. We did learn, however, from Father Dominic in Fear and Hunger 2 that the festival has a rhythm to it and can be predicted as to where it will occur, as he was able to predict the festival would land in Prihevil, the setting of Fear and Hunger 2, long before it actually arrived. His servants are by far one of the most blatant and interesting attempts at meddling in human affairs, and we have met several of them. Pocket Cat, the well-mannered child-eating monster from fairy tales who appears in both games, the Lady of the Moon, who rises from the green hue in the past Mahab to kidnap the little girl from us in exchange for healing, and Perkele, the heretic Rher follower who saves us from the sulfur god clutches at the beginning of the game, grants us access to the Hexen, skill tree that allows us to make ourselves stronger, and was a previous victor of the Festival of Termina where he was, unquote, born again. He also reveals to us the most pressing truth of all, that Rher has left humanity behind, much like all the other older gods, with only his traces hanging above us. Now, these servants all share some striking similarities. For one, they all seemingly help the player. Pocket Cat is outwardly friendly to us and offers us powerful items in exchange for some abstract payment, usually that of blood, with childer being his currency in Fear and Hunger 1, presumably to interfere with the little girl's ascension in the game, or the heads of contestants in Fear and Hunger 2. The Lady of the Moon offers us much the same thing, but instead will restore the party's health, mind, and body parts in exchange for the girl. Perkele, as stated before, grants us access to the Hexen, which is the most powerful system in Fear and Hunger 2, and gives us advice on where to go, what to do, all on top of letting us save our game. The servants of Rher are also seemingly bound by some form of rules. Pocket Cat in Termina and Fear and Hunger 1 cannot harm us as Rher ordered him not to directly interfere. And despite him becoming furious, he won't attack us no matter what. The Lady of the Moon refuses to engage in combat with us and will not fight back when we attack her. Perkele also cannot interfere with the Festival of Termina, as he states Rher has bound him from doing so. Another factor shared by all of these servants is that they are all somewhat well-spoken, which is something that is of extreme note when most of the true followers of the gods are maddened fiends who refuse to speak, incapable of speech, or when they do speak are usually just trying to threaten us. But the servants of Rher are extremely capable of holding conversation, and do so on several occasions. Although they speak in riddles, they often enlighten us on topics of the nature of the world and several factors of the human condition. Pocket Cat is the most guilty of this, and he will regale the player on several of his more philosophical ways of looking at the world, even if they seem outright insane. However, he does speak to a certain truth of the world around him. In Fear and Hunger 1, his main topics of conversation revolve around the concept of humans of light and humans of dark, and the dynamics of the human mind, and he reaffirms that one should stay true to oneself at all times and never waver from that and give in to what is societally expected of them. In Fear and Hunger 2, Pocket Cat will speak to us about his admiration for chaos, and how it's the only thing that leads to true change. This also reflects on his idea about artists, where he states that there are 3 types of artists. The extroverted artists, those who want to change the world with their art, introverted artists, who paint paintings of their inner world to be understood better, and the third type, who creates simply for the act of it and lets the process morph the creation with no intent, which is the type of artist he personally favors. And it is my belief that Pocket Cat is betraying Rher's mentality while conversing with us. A final note on the servants of Rher is that they all seemingly can interact with and traverse between the physical realm and higher realms. Pocket Cat is found in the dream sequence of Fear and Hunger 1 and possesses Dan through his mind. The Lady of the Moon emerges directly from the green hue of True Mahab and returns to it as she pleases. Perkele can interact with dreams and pulls us out of a dream to speak with us before the Termina festival even begins. With all these factors in mind, we can see that Rher plays by a very different set of rules than the other old gods. His goals are obscured, he seemingly holds a strong connection to his followers, and they genuinely seem to benefit from their devotion to him. And despite his disposition towards humanity, he doesn't outwardly try and murder all of us, even though he very much could. He also has some dominance over the realm of the mind, but there's more to it than just that. I think the view of the new gods is flawed. He is a jealous god, and he does attempt to thwart humanity. But if that was his only goal, then why does he not attack us when we try to use the logic terminals in Fear and Hunger 2? Why did Pocket Cat not try and kidnap the girl by force, or why did he not try and deceive us more forwardly? Why do his servants constantly try to aid the player through their journey? Well, let's delve deeper into this conundrum and see what we can ascertain. All of the gods of Fear and Hunger grant their followers abilities and powers similar to their dominions. Drogroth gives his followers the ability to channel great blood magics, spread fires, or even raise the dead as servants. Sylvian grants her followers the ability to heal others and mend flesh. The god of Fear and Hunger grants her followers a dominion over the vile and forgotten, being able to animate severed limbs and speak to rats. So each god bestows upon their devoted followers the ability to directly channel some of their powers from their domain, giving the magician the ability to essentially understand the viewpoint of the god by directly using their powers. And we can learn quite a bit about the nature of a god based upon the powers granted. Additionally, some of the gods have greater blessings that they will bestow upon followers, such as the Sylvian marriage, wherein we can begin to see what Sylvian's viewpoint of love actually is from the eyes of a god. Luckily, Rher gives us many gifts that we have to study. And so, what can we learn from the powers that he chooses to bless us with? Rher, by far, has some of the most odd and utility-based spells in the entirety of the game, and 2 of them are locked behind achieving ending B, both in normal and Maso mode. So let's look at the initial spells first, as I believe they have the most to say. First, we have Reveal Aura, which is a simple spell that allows a contestant of the Festival of Termina to be able to see where their moon-scorched competitors are while using a map. It costs mine to use along with a physical map, but for those unfamiliar with the streets of Prehival, it can be quite the boon. Next, we have Mind Read, which, just as the name implies, allows for a follower to peer into the minds of others while speaking with them, and reading their thoughts. It unlocks multiple unique dialogue lines with multiple different characters throughout the game, which grants us a deeper understanding of the world and the people around the player, and even key one in to when someone is about to moonscorch. Following that is a simple increase to mind of 25 points, which, funnily enough, is also what Rher's Occult carving does when it's engraved onto one's skin, increasing their capacity for magic and resilience to the madness around them. Finally, for the base game spells, we have the Golden Gates. Located all around Prehival are Rher's sigils, which are gates to what is known as Rher's Realm. Within Rher's Realm are various monstrous enemies like Rontuils, and secrets with the Golden Gates themselves. These Golden Gates link Rher's realm together and can act as shortcuts around the world. Furthermore, there are several mysterious rooms here in this realm that seem to belong to other entities, including one which seemingly belongs to our good old friend Pocket Cat. It is a strange, dreamlike place where nonsensical and unsettling design choices are apparent everywhere, with no real apparent function, but the ability to walk between realms and move around quicker is an unprecedented benefit. These Golden Gates can only be accessed via the realm of Rher, but how does one enter into the mysterious realm? Simple. Through carving Rher's sigil upon an asymmetrical ritual circle, and once carved into the ground, you can then enter Rher's realm freely. Now for the new Game Plus spells. These can only be achieved by beating the game and getting ending B on normal mode and on Maso mode, which is a different topic for a different day. But these 2 spells are as follows: Lunar Meteorite and Lunar Storm. They are simple, damaging spells that deal otherworldly damage, and thus they can damage that which is traditionally intangible. One is single target, the other one is AoE. I also believe it is worth to look at what skills Rher uses himself when we do battle with him. He uses an ability called Dreamscape, which summons a golden phantom to slash or stab at us with otherworldly weapons, resulting in limb loss. He can also use Lunar Storm to deal damage to the entire party. He can also Moonscorch a party member, dealing heavy damage and burning them. Finally, his eyes will sap the mind from the party each turn if they are not able to deal with them. And eventually, if you hit 0 mind, your brain will melt. Straight up. It's also worth noting that he is one of the rare enemies who inflicts every fear type. So, what we see from these spells and powers is that Rher, oddly enough, seeks to help the player through utility and understanding of the world around them, rather than raw damage or healing. What few offensive spells he does grant his followers aren't exactly the best, and he seems to be much more keen to help the player with their maneuvering through the world, as well as fortifying their mind. Rher seems to value his followers being intelligent and having the ability to look at the world in different ways, not only through his skills that he grants the players, but through his followers' dialogue, who often suggests the changing of one's perspectives in search for greater understanding. Additionally, Rher seems to truly punish those weak of mind and offers nothing of value for those who lack the mental fortitude to withstand and utilize his gifts. On the topic of mental fortitude, it is impossible and rather unwise to speak on the subject of Rher without mentioning one of his greatest influences upon the mortal world. Moonscorching, aka the Moonlight Cancer, is a physiological and psychological condition where an individual who has drawn too much attention from Rher's gaze and spends a prolonged amount of time underneath it will eventually succumb to a transformation where the individual becomes a twisted, mutilated version of one's initial self, usually going mad in the process. Moonscorching only occurs to the player as a punishment for the Day 4 ending, essentially not participating in the contest at all, and choosing to run out of time willfully. Or on Maso mode, which occurs for being outside for a prolonged period of time, and is one of my least favorite mechanics of Maso mode. For the contestants in-game, it seems to occur only when the contestants' will starts to slip away from them, and the influence of Rher begins to grow. But this influence seems to take shape in the form of subconscious thoughts that plague the mind of the victim. And when in possession of the mind read skill, you can see certain characters begin to slip into insanity, and Moonscorching follows very shortly after. Now, one's Moonscorch form is a grotesque reflection of prevalent subconscious thought, and most contestants lose their mind once they become Moonscorched. Marco is a great example of this. He becomes the thing he is most disgusted by, which is becoming a monster capable of nothing else but violence. He has 2 gigantic hands, no mouth or discernible facial features, and has a hapless victim permanently clutched in his grasp. Abella metamorphosized into Challenger, a massive, muscle-bound monster wearing her iconic overalls, all of her feminine features lost and is only seen as a masculine being, reflecting one of her greatest insecurities she has as a woman working as a mechanic in the 1930s. Or look at Mayrina, who becomes the Cocoon, where her head is now in the place of her genitals, highlighting the key struggle she faces as a trans woman, and she is on all fours with a leash around her neck, being controlled by the Cocoon creature, which represents her father and the abusive relationship she had with him. Now, not all Moonscorch victims revile their new forms. There is Caligula, the monster, who revels in his new form, finding power and joy in his new horrific body, which allows him to inflict greater suffering in rancid acts than he has already performed in-game. And a final Moonscorch form that is worth mentioning is Samari, who Moonscorches extremely early in the game and becomes Dysmorphia, which she seemingly revels in, finally possessing a body of considerable strength and power, now free of the curses that were inflicted upon her by the Vatican. I find Moonscorching to be an interesting phenomena, not just because it adds a very fun fight into the game, and the layers of symbology behind it, but it once again highlights Rher tapping into people's minds and reaffirming what their true nature is, and that those who are less sure of themselves and weaker of mind ultimately suffer far worse effects from Moonscorching. When it comes to the blessings of Rher, he truly does revel in the expansion of the mind, and uplifting those who are true to their nature and clever enough to use what has been given to them. Some view Rher's gift as a curse, but to those who embrace the truth around them, They are empowered more than any follower of any god we have seen thus far. It's really starting to feel hot in here today. I don't know what that is. What's that whispering? Never mind. So, we have now analyzed the history of Rher, his followers, and his powers. And if we just went off this, it would be very easy to say that the domain Rher oversees is that of the mind. But I would personally disagree with this idea. You see, the old gods of fear and hunger represent large, universal concepts that affect every aspect of life, aspects that cannot truly exist within the minds of mankind. By all means, they are forces of nature: destruction, creation, darkness, and so on. These are concepts that spread out all across reality. Rher's domain, being the mind, is too elusive a concept that does not apply to all reality. Sure, everyone's got a brain, but not everyone or everything has a mind. Now, he does 100% govern the mind, and many aspects of it, but that is because I believe the mind is only a portion of what I believe his domain truly is. Now, for this section I will be referencing heavily from Cornelius Agrippa's The Three Books of Occult Philosophy, a key tome for any who study in the grimoire traditions of occultism in the modern day. And when it comes to having a core book in the world of modern magical practices, the Three Books of Occult Philosophy are about as close as it comes, and has founded many of the modern philosophies around the topic of occult studies. As such, I will be referring to this book in terms of the three books, or in the words of Agrippa. And I would like to add that I bring real-world occult philosophies into this hypothesis due to Miro having referenced real-world occult practices already, with the rebus, the ultimate goal of alchemy, being represented by the Sylvian marriage and the union of opposites, the way the sigils of the gods are constructed, and the concept of the Jungian shadow, with the gods of sulfur and Ulmer being reflections of one another. So I do not view it as much of a stretch to think that real-world occultism could not be used to hypothesize the true domain of Rher. As such, we are going to use it today. Firstly, I want to look at what the moon represents in metaphysical/magical perspectives. In the Three Books of Occult Philosophy, Agrippa, in chapter 32 of Book 2, he outlines that the moon acts as a reciprocal force of the heavens, receiving and reflecting the light of all the other stars in the heavens, and shining their light upon the earth. Due to its proximity to the earth, Agrippa notes that the moon must be channeled and called upon, and worked with, in order for magical workings to be achieved. Plato details this order of superior heavenly bodies linking to their lower counterparts as the phenomena of the golden chain, and this chain eventually links all things to the one supreme source. Thus, without the moon's intervention, one could not sufficiently utilize the power of the supreme source of reality. I bring this point up as it is highlighted by multiple moon-scorched individuals in the game that the light of Rher's moon is that of an alien green hue, a green hue that can only be found at the source of everything, the void, the true Mahab, where all the gods originate from, a realm of pure thought, ideas, and concepts. And seeing this, it is possible to ascertain that Rher's light is a reflection of the green hue of true Mahab. So, the moonlight that moon-scorches people is actually the energy of all creation being pushed upon them, and their bodies thus becoming overwhelmed. This also adds credence to the fact that the moon-scorched forms are shaped by the internal thoughts of a contestant, also explaining why some contestants revel in their forms and others are reviled by them, going insane. Adding on to this idea that the moon is used as the intermediary force between the mortal realms and the heavens is also one that is reflected in Rher and his powers. Rher increases the mind of those who bear his sigil and those who are properly devoted to him, allowing them to channel greater magics more often with less risk of going insane. Another key factor of note is that Rher holds significant power over dreams, and dreams are seemingly a key to the higher realms onward to the void of Mahab. Rontails, like I mentioned earlier, are monstrous enemies that dwell within Rher's realm, and will often use the energy of fear from nightmares in order to manifest into the real world, according to the new gods of Mahab. Hercule can manipulate dreams and appear in them at will, and he can manipulate one's position within dreams. The Skin Granny from Fear and Hunger 1 can attack sleeping victims and kill them inside their dreams and can use dreams to enter into the mortal realm. So it is entirely plausible to say that Rher's realm is within this realm of dreams. And if that is the case, then the use of Golden Gates actively is allowing the followers of Rher to traverse from the material realm to the dream realm, closer to that of a realm of pure thought and concept, like that of Mahab. So, Rher has quite literally formed his own golden chain, which allows his followers to traverse into the higher realms, and in his own way acts as an intermediary between mortals and all the gods he oversees, as he is the chief overseer of the Festival of Termina, which was, again, not a festival forged by his own will, but by the will of all the old gods. He merely attends to it and makes sure that it's going according to plan. And when a victor emerges victorious, they're not only having an audience with Rher, but with all of the gods through Rher himself. I want now to look at the sigil of Rher through the lens of alchemy, because there are many things we can uncover here. Although I must yield, there are still many secrets that elude me still, as I am not a complete expert in the realm of alchemy. That would be better of my associates. Rher's sigil is 3 circles intersecting, with 2 full circles and 1 circle with a dot in its center and its right side hanging wide open. What jumps out to me from the start is the similarity between this dotted circle and its relation to the alchemical symbol of gold, or the sun. A single circle with a dot adorning its middle. Gold carries several meanings within the realms of alchemy and the occult, such as a symbol of divinity, wealth, and inner wisdom. And within the modern traditions of alchemy, the pursuit of being able to transmute elements into gold to create the Philosopher's Stone, the key to immortality, is actually a spiritual pursuit of self-mastery, which one can use to ascend beyond one's mortal self. So this element being present blatantly in Rher's sigil, and the colorization of his spells, being gold, signals to us that Rher perhaps offers gateways to a mastery over one's mind and self, bringing oneself closer to the higher spheres of reality. Now, this section of the sigil that signifies gold is also open. Now, I could not discern or find any matching alchemical symbols that could glean us greater meaning, but I see this quite literally as a gate. Rher's sigil could be seen as a golden gate that allows one to walk beyond or channel greater energies. Then we have the spheres next to this golden portion, which, in my eyes, could be referenced heavily to the imagery of the Dragon of the Moon, which is a metaphysical representation of the heavenly movements of the moon and sun. This was written in the Middle Ages, so the heliocentric model hadn't caught up as of yet. And these cycles mark the amplification of specific spiritual energies upon the Earth, further illustrating the role that Rher may play in being an intermediary force between Mahab and the Earth. Another factor that can be considered is the appearance of Rher himself during his boss fight. Rher is not a simple moon, he's not just some golden circle floating above you. When we battle his traces in the finale of Fear and Hunger 2 atop the tower, he takes the appearance of an abstract, overwhelming presence locked within wheels surrounding his body that are adorned with eyes. This appearance is most strikingly similar to the description or appearance of what the internet has come to refer to as biblically accurate angels, or in more precise terms, an Ophanim, a type of angel which was seen by Ezekiel in the Bible, and while the direct symbology of these entities is up to debate by religious scholars, what can be said for certain is that the Ophanim themselves act as almost a living message, communicating the omnipresent nature of God as they are stated to move throughout the world with little or no restriction, and do not need to turn to look at whatever they are talking to. And they also represent God's omniscient nature due to their vast number of eyes they possess, quite literally seeing and knowing all. A final interpretation that I read is that the Ophanim act as chief communicators of the heavens and God. Now, while I do think Miro picked out the imagery of the Ophanim due to it just kinda looking cool and spooky, I do believe he made a conscious choice to make Rher appear this way for the deeper symbology. It could be argued that Rher and his many eyes are keeping watch over all humanities, and it could be argued that Rher taking this appearance could be interpreted that Rher is the communicator of Mahab, as he already is granting an audience to players who win the Festival of Termina. This might likely explain why he looks this way. He is the communicator of this universe's heaven to the Earth. One final point that I feel needs to be touched upon is the fact that Rher operates on principles of rules. Clear, distinct rules. His followers must obey them, and they do not seemingly have free will against these rules. Along with the Festival of Termina itself being a festival of set rules, and those who disobey are heavily punished by moon scorching. Rher is also concerned with the truth of the world and the nature of reality, along with the filth of humanity, and the disdain he seemingly has for humans keeping secrets and not acting within their truth. With this evidence in mind, I believe Rher is not just the god of the mind. He is the god of order. Not order in the sense of human laws and civilization, but order of a cosmic scale. The order of humans beneath the gods, which, in my eyes, is why Rher fights so hard to sabotage humans and show them their flaws. It is also why his followers must obey his rules and order. Rher acts as a vehicle and chief intermediary between the higher realms of reality and the lower realms of humanity. He sabotages humans merely by uncovering and highlighting their true nature. It is why he does not allow his followers to act in violent ways to disrupt humanity's ascension. Rher seeks to allow humans to fall upon their own swords, by their own choices. As for why he has a strong domination over the mind, is because Rher reflects the green hue from himself and pushes it out wherever he decides to let his gaze linger. And it is said that this green hue is the green hue of Mahab, and that Mahab is a realm of pure thought and concept. And if Rher is channeling this energy, it stands to reason that by proximity, Rher is able to see into others' minds, much as the same way others can see into the green hue by learning greater magics. It's a two-way street. So the mind is merely a link in the chain of the cosmic order, not separate from it. Henceforth, it's why he can manipulate the mind in the way he does. It is also why moon scorching is a reflection of the inner mind of humans, and why he bolsters the minds of his followers. Anyone who draws too near to Rher is going to be bombarded by that green hue and driving them mad. Rher is not merely the god of the mind, for the mind is a link in that chain. He is not a god of trickery, he's merely exposing human filth for what it is. He's the divine expression of cosmic order of the universe, where humans will always play second fiddle to the gods, and that those who are weak of mind will be punished and mutilated by the overwhelming presence of the divinity within them. We may always see him, and we may always know where he will strike next. He may play by the rules, but make no mistake, Rher is the cruel hand that will hover just above our heads, an eternal judge, lying in wait. So there we have it. Slightly insane hypothesis about the true nature of Fear and Hunger's most elusive god. I hope it proved enlightening. Oh, I'm so sorry. My head is killing me. Dear gods, I feel like... Oh no, I feel like something's underneath my skin. Oh. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no!